What's up, everybody? Alex here. Welcome back to another video, and welcome to snowy Columbus, Ohio. Apologies if you hear some background noise. The dishwasher's going. It should stop probably midway through this video, but I want to do a vinyl finds. I haven't done one of these in a little while. I've done over the last several weeks or months or whatever some more specific stuff, you know, like, oh, here's a bunch of dollar finds, or here's this big jazz sale. But I realized I had this sort of stack of records culminating that I've been wanting to talk about that I've amassed over, God, at this point it's been probably 2 months. Like, this goes back to probably like Christmas. So a lot of stuff to show. Don't want it to be too long. I know people love these types of videos, and I love to show them and talk about the records and all that type of stuff. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first one I'm going to show is a big boy like me. And this was a box set. Now, this came from one of those You Discover or Sound of Vinyl sales. I did a whole thing on that with all the jazz pickups I had. This was the lone non-jazz pickup. And the story with this is that I believe it's $150 and or $140, $150, and they had it at half off. And then they had it at half off again. So I want to say that this, I paid $35 for this box set. And that is the deluxe big ass boy of Rush Permanent Waves. So this is a remixed or remastered LP with a double live set from 1980 from the Permanent Waves tour, plus a number of CDs, plus a book, plus a poster, plus tchotchkes. I mean, you know the box set thing. I've said this before, I am not a box set person, but this whole thing was $35. Are you kidding me? Of course I'm going to pick it up. Great live performances, meaning solid quality. You know, a lot of times with some of the box set stuff, when they include some live stuff, it's almost just sort of glorified bootleg stuff where you're like, this is cool, but it's bad quality. Really great audio quality here. Record sounds great. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to pull everything out and show everything, but you know, your standard big ass box set, $35. You know, was too could not pass that up, right? All right, let's go to some prog world, and this is the third record from this band from 1970, H2E. Who Am the Only One? Say that, I mean, you can't say it one time fast, nevertheless, 5 times fast. Graaf Generator, 1970. This was their third studio record. So Graaf, you know, for prog purists, you know, they're up there. People love them or people hate them. Sometimes it's a Peter Hamill voice thing. Sometimes it's the fact that they don't really have lead guitar, but they have sax. What I will say is no one else really sounds like Graaf. This was their third, I believe, right before Pawn Hearts, which is sort of, I think, their their masterpiece. I have a number of the later to mid 70s records. This is a more recent reissue that I was able to pick up for really cheap, which is good because these early Graaf records you just don't see very much, or the reissues are like absurdly expensive. So yeah, H2E, Who Am the Only One from Graaf Generator, 1970. Here's a fun one. This is a twofer. You know, a lot of people who are fans of that sort of early 70s UK glam scene, you know, with Bowie or Sweet, you know, the artist that gets thrown in there the most of the time is T-Rex with Mark Bolan. Now, before they were T-Rex, they actually were Tyrannosaurus Rex, and they really started as like a mid to late 60s English folk psychedelic band. I mean, the stuff of their early years sound nothing like The Slider or nothing like Electric Warrior, and certainly nothing like Tanks. And so this is a twofer that you can find out there for pretty cheap. I think I paid maybe $10 for this, and that is Tyrannosaurus Rex, A Beginning. 2 records from Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now, it's their first 2 records, you know, cool gatefold, awesome stuff. Here's where it gets a little bit wild. What was this on? A&M maybe? Yeah, A&M. My people were fair and had sky in their hair, but now they're content to wear stars on their brows. Name of the one record and name of the other record. Prophets, seers, and sages, the angels of the ages. I mean, that is as weird, psyche, folky stuff. Again, this sounds nothing like Electric Warrior or The Slide or anything like that, but really cool relic stuff. And again, those early records are so hard to find that a lot of times you can get the cheap twofer for something like this. So if you see this out there, just know it's a twofer of Tyrannosaurus Rex's first 2 records. Good stuff. Here's a record. I am a huge Frank Zappa fan, and who knows if you can ever truly become a Zappa completist, but this is one of the original, I think that's the other thing too, is so much stuff has now been posthumously released, it's impossible to keep up. But this is one of the original releases I did not have, and that is with the London Symphony Orchestra, Volume 1. So this came out, I believe, in '83 on that classic, what was it, Barking Pumpkin, whatever his sort of label was, that classic thing. And yeah, I mean, Zappa does whatever he wants in the best of ways, and this is exactly what it sounds like. This is London Symphony Orchestra. Good stuff. You know, it's like, how do I compare this to anything else? I don't know. Just the fact that he was doing it and it was a huge hole in the collection, had to have it. So yeah, feeling good about that. Now here's a record I already owned, but I am a sucker for a white label promo. So I wanted to pick this up because it was really cheap, and that is a white label promo of the long player from The Faces. So of course on Warner Brothers there. A really great record. I mean, you know, The Faces were just so cool. They're like, in the best of ways, there goes the dishwasher. In the best of ways, man, they were just like a good old-fashioned drunken bar rock and roll band, and something that we probably need more of. So yeah, great record, long player. Love to have a white label promo, just a sucker for that, so we love to see it. Here's a record I've been on the search for a while. I wish it was an original or a first pressing, I guess, but those go for a lot of money. But it is an early reissue, which is kind of cool, on Rare Earth. And that is Parachute from the Pretty Things. So, you know, Pretty Things started as sort of this mid-60s, almost beat R&B sort of band. I mean, similar contemporaries to the Stones or whatever was going on in the mid-60s. And then by this time, they are fully sort of embracing the more psychedelic pop Beatle-y type stuff. Big harmonies, great hooks, really strong stuff. You know, a lot of people will talk about SF Sorrow, you know, as the first rock opera or, you know, concept sort of piece, whatever it may be. A Parachute is a great record. Again, first presses of this, at least in the States, go for a lot of money. I'm sure they go for a ton over in the UK as well. This, I believe, is a second or third press, still on that Rare Earth label. But just a little bit different. But yeah, a really cool record and one I've been after for a while. Parachute from the Pretty Things. Here's an artist that I love that is great because you can buy his stuff for relatively cheap all the time, and they're all such good records. Actually, just it wasn't this record, but I just saw my boy Jack over at Vinyl Martini show a record from Buddy Miles, and I'm going to do the same. And this is the Buddy Miles band with Chapter 7, but this is the quadrophonic version. I mean, whatever that means. I mean, I know what it means, but, you know, people like to collect these things too. It's just cool. It's just different stuff. So, yeah, I mean, obviously Buddy Miles coming from Electric Flag and then a band of gypsies, but his solo stuff and with the Buddy Miles band is just awesome. This great fusion of just rock and soul and funk and just some blues thrown in there. Nothing like it. And he remains one of the coolest cats in the world. I mean, look at that dude. I mean, that's a big boy. From one big boy to another, I appreciate that. He probably got significantly more poontang than I ever will, but we knew that already. Let's keep it moving. So these two, I'm a fan of this guy. Admittedly, this is getting into some of the stuff where I'm like, I don't know, but these were so cheap. I mean, again, some of these, I hate to be a Bezos supporter because, you know, that guy's probably going to hell. But the reality is that sometimes there's just too good of deals to pass up. And this was the case. I got a couple of Tom Waits records, Swordfish trombones, and then the Black Rider. Now, I believe this is a soundtrack, technically from maybe the early 90s. Swordfish trombones was more the 80s, 83, I guess. Love this. This, because it's a soundtrack, I mean, it's just weird, right? I mean, it is, it's a studio album, yes, but, you know, because it's a soundtrack, similar, wasn't Alice a soundtrack? Some of the Tom Waits people will point out for me, but I think these were $15. So you know what? Who knows? The stuff's been sorely out of print for a long time, so I picked them both up, and I like weird stuff, so we're going to keep it moving. I showed this on a video not too long ago, but it was great to pick up a copy of this. This is a more recent reissue, but it's fine. It was super cheap, and that is the Replacements Tim. So yeah, I guess I'm turning into a Replacements fan. I mean, I absolutely adore Pleased to Meet Me. I mean, that record blew me away when I heard it. And so someone said, hey, if you like that, you got to get Tim. And so of course I got Tim, and I just love this. I mean, again, this period, they're not really punk anymore. There's some of that like punk influence, but really they're just strong, great, accessible, alternative, kind of pop punk, not pop punk, but you know what I'm getting at. Great stuff. Of course, hey, a special thanks to Alex Chilton is on here. My favorite track on here is the one that sounds nothing like anything else, and that's what closes the album, Here Comes a Regular, which I think is about a record store in Minneapolis or St. Paul. So yeah, I know there's a lot of Replacements fans out there. Loved him. Great stuff. Finally added this. This now means I'm just missing one thing. I should have included this earlier with my Rush, but I did not, and that is Vapor Trails remixed. I don't know, people will call this like a separate album or whatever, but yeah, Vapor Trails, this was originally 2013, so I guess their second to last record. That sound right? So I guess all I'm missing now is Snakes and Arrows, Chutes and Ladders, whatever it's called. Hey, I love this, man. I mean, this is Rush, late career. It's heavy, it's in your face. I like this type of stuff. Ooh, do I like it more than that early 90s stuff? It's possible. It's possible. I need a little bit more time with it, but yeah, I mean, this was, again, a great deal, and I had to pick it up, so yeah. Vapor Trails remixed, which apparently the original mix of Vapor Trails was, like, criminally bad. Who knows? This is a record that has been on my want list for years, and I could not be more excited to finally pick it up, and that is the debut from Lucifer's Friend. German band, but really it's John Lawton, who would later join Uriah Heep with like 4 Germans, I think. 1970. This is as good. First of all, look at that album cover. Look at that. I got the height like that guy and then the body like that guy. Anyway, Brain Records, so it came out here on Billingsgate in the States. And this is as good of proto metal, in your face, hard rock from 1970s. I would put this up there with Paranoid. I would put this up there with Deep Purple in rock. I would put this up there with all of that stuff from that time. This is out of control good. Their first couple records were pretty heavy, and then they moved it a little bit in a different direction. But yeah, if you don't know this, now one of the fun facts on this is the opening track, Ride the Sky. Listen to Ride the Sky and listen to the hook that's played by horns, kind of. And it sounds very, very familiar. It sounds very much like the hook in Immigrant Song, which came out the same year. I don't know. Take your pick as to what came first and who is cheating here. Another record that's been on my want list forever. I mean, that's the other thing too. I picked up such great, finds for me. These things have been on my want list forever, and finally found a great copy and pulled the proverbial trigger. And that is the debut U.S. release, different cover, from Free. Tons of sobs. So what Bad Company is now in the conversation a little bit, because people want to talk about Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees and all that kind of stuff. Give me Mott the Hoople and give me Free over Bad Company any day of the week, but especially this Bad Company. This Free. This is in your face, hard, heavy blues rock, 1969. Again, the UK version had a different cover. It was blue, but this is on that classic brown A&M label. Just absolutely amazing here. If you don't have this record, go find it. It is a little bit more difficult to find, a little bit pricier, but absolutely outstanding. Second track, Worry. What an absolute smoker that is. Man, just an incredible record. I could not be happier. And I think that completes the Free collection, although I don't have the Free live record. Anyway. Shout out to Canada, especially for putting up with us boners here in the States that, elect people that want to annex them. But this is my first Leonard Cohen record, and I guess this was the one to get, right? Songs of Leonard Cohen. This is a 1970 reissue of it. Still in the shrink. I absolutely loved this. As someone who maybe just heard a couple of passing Leonard Cohen songs over the years, I heard so many people on YouTube talking about this, so I just had to get it. So, yeah, huge fan. Leonard Cohen fans out there, where should I go from here? You let me know. Keeping it going. All right, so yeah, I have a number of copies of this. You all know I'm a huge Badfinger fan. I have an original UK copy of this, which probably holds the, I'm never going to get rid of that just because it sounds so amazing. But I'm a sucker for a promo, and that is Badfinger's Wish You Were Here, a US promo copy. I've talked about this record a lot. If you know, you know. An incredible album, and just a sucker for a promo, so glad to add it. Now, this was added out of, well, I don't want to say guilt, but this was added out of us losing the great director David Lynch several weeks ago. I shared before on some other video that one of my favorite TV shows of all time is Twin Peaks, but, I showed that soundtrack, and I love that soundtrack, but if you dig a little bit deeper into the Twin Peaks, into the soundtrack, you realize that a lot of that music that was composed or written by David Lynch and Angelo Badalamenti goes back to this debut record from Julee Cruise, Floating into the Night. So this came out in 1989, I believe. And they worked with her, I believe, in Blue Velvet soundtrack and tunes, and then also obviously with Twin Peaks. So like the Twin Peaks theme is taken from this. I think it's actually Falling is the name of it. Now, if you are a Twin Peaks fan, she is also in Twin Peaks as the Roadhouse singer. And so her music from this record is all intertwined all throughout Twin Peaks, and obviously Blue Velvet as well. But dreamy, jazzy, but more in like the loungy sort of cabaret jazz light. Very, very dreamy. I mean, that kind of cover shows it all there. Really sad story with her. I think she had cancer, ended up taking her own life, all that type of stuff. But absolutely outstanding stuff musically. And it's like paying a tribute basically to David Lynch for me. So yeah, Julee Cruise, Falling into the Nights. All right, here is a record from a band that everybody and their brother talks about. This is my first record from this band. I gotta tell you, I kind of love it, and now I'm just more overwhelmed because I don't know where to go from here. But the Prague people told me if I was going to get into this band, to get into this record first. And that is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard from Down Under, and the record Nonagon Infinity. 2016 ATO Records. I really liked this. And I know that everything's different. They do everything. It's psyche, it's acid rock, it's jazzy, it's metal, it's proggy. Whatever. It's just wild. I mean, this is good stuff. Again, I don't know if people out there are King Gizzard fans or not, but I hear enough people talk about him. This is good. And I am overwhelmed with where to go next because of how much I liked it. You all know I'm a big fan of Big Star, and this was an RSD release from 2011, I believe, which is really cool. You know, the Big Star story, they put out #1 record, Chris Bell leaves the band, they put out Radio City, amazing type stuff, and then they're in the studio and they're recording what would be their third album, simply called Third, and apparently Ardent Records put out a number of test pressings at the time that went out to some of the local stations or whatever, but then the album never fully got finished or recorded until later in the 70s. And then it was reissued as Third / Sister Lovers or whatever, who knows. But basically this has been a reissue now for a while, and I think this was one of the first times it was reissued, again, for Record Store Day way back almost 15 years ago, and that is the cool packaging of the original test pressing of Third. So they did a great job with this packaging. I mean, look at this, that is the packaging there. Big Star Third, calling it the test pressing. On the back, the goodies kind of come with everything. It's just great stuff, and it's a cool record. Is it as good as Radio City or #1 record? Probably not, but that's okay too. I mean, there's enough here. I mean, Alex Chilton, to me, never wrote a bad song. And I could listen to him and the rest of these guys play for days. So yeah, a really cool release. I'll put that in the bag later. And last and certainly not least, this is purely a collector thing. It was really cheap. I think it was $5. As I've said before a million times, I'm a sucker for a promo. I own this record. It's not an expensive record, but I do love it. And again, it was cheap, so why not? Okay, so it's Relayer, but it's the promo. Relayer from Yes, promo on the white label. What's cool is this is banded for DJ play. So what that means is this is purely a collectible piece, because I don't think I ever want to listen to this copy ever again, because since it's banded for radio play, there's a lot of fade in and fade outs based on what they would play on the radio. And if you know anything about this record, it's 3 tracks, especially the first track, Gates of Delirium. You don't want any fade in, fade out. It's a big, long, epic track. So really the fading in and fading out kind of ruins the listening experience. But again, as a collector, as someone who loves this record, who loves Yes, and who loves promos, it's just kind of a cool pickup. So there you go. 20 minutes, all the records. Now I can put them away and feel better. Appreciate you all watching. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you on the next one. Cheers, everybody.